Welcome everybody. This is Risk Management Administration class, and on behalf of the students of the University of Monterrey, we will present to you an analysis about the credit situation of the Ford company with the help of the DeepNote platform. This analysis was evaluated and approved under the guidance of Dr. Martin Lozano with the aim of being able to visually show the strategies created and the results obtained through the Black-Scholes Merton model. To develop this assignment, first we have to look up for a public firm to test our model. In this case, we chose Ford Motor Company. Having this, the next thing is to find the necessary variables to be able to introduce them into our model, which are capital value as of today. In this case, we use market capitalization of 68.35 billion, stock return volatility of 41.53%, risk-free rate 1.84%, a maturity of 3 years, 1, 7, and 10 respectively, and value of the debt, which is for the first year, 61.88, for the second year, 65.81, and for the third year, 72.92 billion. The objective of using these values is because we're trying to find two unknown variables, which are value of the assets as of today and the volatility of the assets, since these two are not directly observable. Having these variables, we will be able to evaluate how likely is that the value of the firm's assets fall in the future below a certain threshold represented by the firm's debt. By doing that, the model will also help us estimate the probability of default that we'll need from the collected variables in order to create different scenarios to present better strategies for the company. Considering this data and the formulas, the cumulative probability of default at 5 years is 11.7%.
We'll be analyzing 3 different time periods, year 5, 7, and 10. In order to reduce the probability of default to increase the company's rating, we're going to create 3 strategies for each year. In the first strategy, we will modify only the equity. In the second strategy, we will modify only the debt. And in the third, we will modify both values, with the objective that in all 3, there is an equal reduction in the probability of default to improve the rating, according to the Moody's reference table. Starting by explaining the tables a little bit, we propose different combinations of equity and debt to measure the changes in the probability of default in each scenario. At the graphics, we create vectors with 3 different lines, in which the only change is the equity. Now that we have the graph, we can appreciate an inverse relationship between equity and probability of default, and as a positive relationship between the debt and the PD. Let's start with the first strategy, where all we need to do is change the equity in order to improve our rating from BA to BAA. For this, we will use our reference point that is in the graph as the black dot and has the values of 68.35 billion in equity, 61.9 in accumulated debt over 5 years, and give us a probability of default of 11.7%. Later, we created our strategy where the objective is to reach a target default of 1.8%. For that, we had to increase the equity by 300. The first strategy is represented by the green dot, and you can clearly see an abysmal difference when compared to our benchmark at a distance about 10,000 base points. Now, we're going to make the second strategy, where we will only allow ourselves to move the debt with the same objective as the previous one, to reach a probability of default of 1.8%. For this, we had to make a reduction in debt of 50.45 billion, as can be seen in the estimates. In the graph, you can see in the red dot where it is clearly still in the same vector as our reference point, which means that it is still maintains the same equity, and the only difference is the debt. When comparing it with the reference point, we can see that we also managed to reduce in the same way as the first strategy, only that we needed to reduce 50.45 units in debt, unlike in the equity, that we needed to increase 300. Therefore, we can conclude that it is required to change fewer units of debt than of equity to obtain the same result. For the last strategy of year 5, we're going to make changes in 2 variables. For this, we take as reference the first strategy where we increase 300 units to equity and reduce half of the amount, that is 150. Also take as reference the change on the second strategy where we reduce 50.45 units to the debt and I reduce half, that is 25.22 units. Consequently, it gave me a similar result to the first 2 strategies with our target probability of default, represented on the graph by the pink dot. Therefore, we can conclude that in any of these 3 strategies presented above, our probability of default will be reduced to 1.8%. And according to the table of average probability of default, according to the ratings, the rating agency Moody's will be encouraged to improve the rating to Baa.
For year 7, our objective is to get a probability of default of 2.82% or lower, because this is the number according to Moody's credit grade table, where a BA improves to a Baa. We use 3 different strategies. The first one consists on increasing the equity to 700 billions without making changes to the debt. This change is represented on the graph with the displacement from the red dot to the green one, reducing the PD to 1.84%. The second strategy consists on decreasing debt in 60 millions without making changes to the equity. With this change, we decrease the PD to a similar PD number of the past strategy, being 1.82%, represented on the graph by the displacement from the red dot to the black one. The third strategy consists on decreasing debt in 14 billions and increasing equity in 230 billions. The resulting PD is 1.87% and is represented on the graph by the displacement from the red dot to the pink one. According to our objective PD, the 3 strategies get a similar PD and could improve Ford's credit rate, but the one that we consider as the best one is the second one, decreasing debt in 14 billions, because it's the one with the lowest PD from the 3 ones, and also is the one that needs the less changes in values in order to reduce PD and improve the credit rate.
Finally, we have parameters with a period of 10 years, where we carry out the same strategy as in the 7-year model, but only changing the variables of debt and maturity. We will make specific changes in the points on the graph to explain the strategies of the appropriate new information. We'll create 3 different scenarios where the objective, as of the other strategies are shown above, is to reduce the original PD of 33.41% to 4.74%, this being the PD that leads us to the appropriate credit rating of Baa. For the first one, we change values only on equity, increasing it in 900 billion, while maintaining debt without changes. With this change, the PD decreases to 4.8%, represented on the graph by the displacement from the red dot to a green one, improving Ford's credit rate. For the second strategy, we now reduce debt in 67.78 billion, and we maintain equity without changes. The PD drops to a 4.8% represented by the displacement from the red dot to the black dot, having a similar PD to the one resulting from the only changing equity. Our third strategy consists of changing values from both variables. Here we decide to reduce debt in 37.69 billion and increase the equity in 400 billion, with the objective of getting a PD of 4.8%, the greatest PD comparing to the 3 scenarios. As a result of these changes, we get a probability of default of 4.8%, a great number based on our objective. This change is represented on the graph from the displacement of the red dot to the green dot. We can see that the 3 strategies reduce the PD to a similar number and could improve Ford credit rate from a BA to Baa.
To conclude, I would like to say that our interest in reducing the probability of default is focused on improving the credit rating of Ford. By obtaining a better rating, the company benefits because the demand for its bonds increases. Just as a reduction in the bond rate offered to the market can be allowed because the risk premium is being reduced and the investor feels more confident in acquiring those bonds. In simpler words, improving credit ratings lowers Ford's cost of debt and increases the safety of the bonds for investors. We understand that since we're only using a single method to assess the probability of default, as well as only focusing on the capital structure, the analysis may seem a bit sparse by not identifying many variables and methods. But our objective here is to develop the first step to be able to correct the company's rating, which is to identify the most relevant problems, which in this case is the capital structure. We also know that it is not easy to carry out a debt reduction or a capital increase. That is why we propose various scenarios so we can have more options. For more information about our work, we'll leave the public access link below in the description. Thank you for your attention.